details today, I think. So you want to start?
Oh, sure. Derek, what's it like today? Obviously, the deadline came, and having Brian Dozier as the last person that has made the trade, just what he means to this organization.
Yeah, that's a great question. I mean, a very difficult day on a lot of fronts for that reason. None of these have been easy to talk about, with players, especially when you build some relationships with them. It's challenging. There's an emotion to it. So I don't take that lightly at all. I mean, these guys have been here a long time, in Brian's case in particular, and been a meaningful part of this franchise. Now, I think this was a real opportunity for him, to go to a club right now that Dodgers played in the World Series last year, have a chance, they feel like, with their roster to probably get right back there and maybe finish it off this time around. We just felt like, for us right now as an organization, this was the right time to make that decision and acquire some real talent that will help us continue to build toward what we believe is a championship future. And then in Brian's case, I hope he feels like, in this case, we put him in a position where he gets a chance to go try and do something that's very special and to live a dream to do that in the playoffs.
Did you try to extend the deal with Brian or Escobar before they left?
We did not talk about that at this deadline. No, we had previous conversations, but again, all those stay private around long-term future. And again, those guys are both free agents this offseason, so we'll see where things go then.
Is it like last year where you hope the team still finds a way off a win last night to kind of still battle on and beat these guys?
Yeah, I think these are big league baseball players. This is professional baseball, and as those guys will tell you, there's never a quit. I said this in Boston the other day after we had to make some difficult decisions there. If our players weren't emotional, I'd be concerned. These guys should want to go out and play every day. Now, it's my job ultimately to make some decisions around what's the best course of action for the organization. And I do feel at the deadline you have really two choices to make. You're either in and pushing and grabbing players to help you push toward the finish, or you aren't. I don't think you want to get caught in the middle. And we felt like we had to make a difficult decision. We knew it would be unpopular around some players. I think after talking with a number of guys, a lot of them get the challenge around it. But ultimately, we felt this was the best decision for our organization moving forward.
Derek, everyone that came back in all the deals were basically minor leaguers except for Foresight.
Sure.
How did he fit in, and how did that part of the trade come together?
Yeah, that was part of the big picture, aspect of the discussion with the Dodgers, just around roster fit. And we have the fit for Logan here in the short term. He's somebody who's had a lot of success in the big leagues. He's been a great clubhouse guy. We've heard a lot of good things about him. And Derek Shelton, in particular, knows him well from some time in Tampa with him. And this just felt like, as we worked through negotiations, it was the right fit in the deal.
What does this last week look like? Some of the external, maybe places that Brian fit, kind of teams went out and made their moves. What's this been like just with his market this last week?
Yeah, I think when you approach every deadline, this is just my view, the big picture is that this is the time of year where I think relievers maybe are the most interesting assets among teams. There just seems to be a lot more movement in that market. And then starting pitching, and then the position players, you have to really have a specific fit. And especially when it comes to a player, in Brian's case, who's played primarily second base, for the vast majority of his major league career, and that's probably where he fits. There are only so many unique opportunities for him to go. I think whereas maybe in Eduardo's case, with the chance to bounce around a little bit more in the infield, that created a little bit more flexibility and opportunity. So I think that it definitely was a slower paced market on the position player side, and ultimately up until today we didn't have anything that we were ready to pursue.
Derek, in all these deals, was getting young pitching back a priority?
Pitching is always a priority. I think you guys have heard me say before, I don't think you can have enough pitching. I don't think there's an opportunity to have too much. So it certainly was. I think in this particular at this particular deadline, one of the goals we had was to try and find some upside pitching, guys with real ceiling, and ultimately we felt like we got that. We got some real power arms, guys that came back that we think have a chance to creep to the top of the rotation. Not to say that would have been the only approach to this deadline, but when we found opportunities with a couple of different clubs, and whether it's Jorge Alcala or Joan Duran or others, guys with real ceiling and a chance to impact our future here. Probably not too long, not in the too distant future, I should say.
The Rayleigh kid looks like he's got a little pop. How impressive of a prospect is he?
Yeah, he's a guy. We felt like the Dodger system, was a relatively deep system, and a lot of good players there. And I think Luke's somebody who Jeremy Zoll, our farm director, has a lot of familiarity with. We knew who he was as a kid, makeup, work habits. I think he's really developed into some of that power over the last year plus. And he's somebody that we think now going to AA, not unlike a Brent Rooker or someone at that level with us, that really gives us a chance to add some power to our lineup. He'll go back to the outfield more full-time. He rotate a little bit between the outfield and first base there. So we feel like it's a good fit.
How much does it help that Jeremy does know so much about his Dodger prospect?
Yeah, we're always doing makeup work on these guys, so it helps when we have somebody right in the office that we can walk down the hall and ask. But guys like Torrey Hunter and Justin Morneau and LaTroy Hawkins, Michael Kadire, those guys have contacts, different places. We're always contacting different people from different organizations to learn more about the players they have history with. I know that in kind of a side story on that, but Maciel, the player from Brazil that we got, LaTroy had been involved with that Brazilian team for the last couple of seasons, so he knew him well. You just get different makeup information from different people, and we talked about trying to find championship quality players, not just in terms of talent, but what they can do in the clubhouse, leaders, how they operate, and we feel like for a number of these players we brought back, we have real upside not only in talent, but in who they are as leaders.
I think 11 different guys, 11 from minor leaguers, nice to have that much kind of depth, I guess, to add to the system like that.
Definitely. I think that when you're looking at minor league talent, we all know how hard it is to get to the big league level, to get through the minor leagues, and there's changes in roles, changes in positions. So we felt like we were able to get some high upside position players, some good relief talent, potentially some starters. So to just add to our system and pipeline was the goal.
Only Presley was under team control beyond this year. What's it kind of say for 2019 and beyond?
I think we've talked a lot about the core, and building around this team, and clearly this year to date has not gone the way we expected, and we all need to look in the mirror around that. And I think that when you see guys like Eddie Rosario and Jose Barrios and guys take steps up this year, Max Kepler continues to improve. We need some other guys to kind of join that group, and I think about guys like Kyle Gibson who have taken a great step over the last year. We have a number of guys in that clubhouse there that are under control for the future, whether it's not next year or years beyond. They're going to be a big part of what we're trying to build here, and I still feel good about that group of players.
What about Buxton?
Yep, and Buck, he's not in that clubhouse right now. I think we all know that we need him back here to be the type of team that we want to be. He's somebody who is still working himself back. It's been a tough year for him from an injury standpoint, from a performance standpoint, but I know that from a mindset standpoint, he's got everything we are looking for.
And how much did the specter of that qualifying offer kind of loom over discussions with someone like Dozier?
Yeah, it certainly is something that plays a role for every player going into the year, and I think as you get to the deadline, it's a consideration. Whether or not teams go ahead and think about executing that. I think there's a lot more season left to determine whether or not that was a real consideration, but something we think about for all our players.
And
There always seems to be a thought of, did they win or did they lose at the trade deadline?
Mm-hmm.
When you look at how everything unfolded over the last X amount of days, how do you evaluate how the Twins did?
I hope that we I don't think about it necessarily in win-lose. I just think about it, did we invest and make the right decisions for our future? And I think we did. I think we ultimately made some difficult decisions, some hard choices to trade away players that we think would help us here in the next couple of months for a great deal of talent that will help us in the future, and I feel good about that outcome.
with Rodney having that option for next year, how much of that kind of plays into not to deal with him?
Definitely consideration. I think guys that we had control over moving forward, either by way of just contractual control or by way of option, was a factor for us. And so at this stage, we felt like this was he's the right fit for us now, and then we can continue to make decisions with respect to him this offseason.
Not singling out any other prospects you got back, but as an organization, are you in a spot right now where you prefer the sort of high reward, maybe higher risk, higher volatility player?
I think when we look at deadline return, or not just deadline returns, but at any point in time when we're investing in prospect acquisition, we're taking a portfolio approach, a blended approach. We felt like in different trades, we acquired maybe slightly lower ceiling, higher floor types, guys that fit the upper levels and have a chance to help us along the way. That's not to say those guys couldn't exceed our expectations, but I think that was the goal. I think in some cases we probably did invest in a little bit higher risk, higher reward. Guys with real elite premium stuff that sometimes those things don't go exactly the way you expect, but to get a good 25-man roster and to build the kind of depth you need, as some of the other clubs that have been really successful and are successful right now have done, you had to invest in a blended approach to those types of players.